February 19th, about 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 Eastern Standard Time. Somebody asked if I could do a quick lesson on distribution, overhead, ATMs, etc. And today's a perfect example of that because we have VCNX, right? It was running up in pre-market today, and I told everybody, hey, they're going to be using their ATM. Now, can anybody tell me what ATM means in this particular instance? It can also mean at the money, for options and stuff. But in this particular instance, what is ATM? At the market, what? What does it signify? So we've got this ATM here. See this? So it says ATM, September 20th, right? Jeffries is, not as shady as others, somewhat reputable, right? How much is remaining on their ATM? 100 million. And so, Massimo, you are correct. It means at the market. And just so everybody understands, an ATM is them selling shares that they do not have and just banking the money. And it's like if you could right now just say, you know what, I'm just going to start selling shares, and you're creating shares out of thin air. So now the important part with ATMs is you want to see the comparable size and cash and all that kind of stuff. So let's go up here and look. Well, do they have a reason to use the ATM? How would I know if they have a reason to use the ATM, guys? Jim says low on cash, right? How much cash they got on the books? Well, let's look. The reason I use this site, the dilution tracker, is because I double check his work every once in a while, and as soon as he doesn't have errors very often. Probably 1 out of every 20 that I check, he'll have an error, and it's a minuscule error at that. So the company has 2.4 months of cash left based on quarterly cash burn rate. So you've got 2.5 months of cash. So let's just pretend you don't have a job and you've got 2.5 months of cash left. Then all of a sudden you come up with an avenue to say, you know what? My stock was at $2, $2.75, and now it's at freaking $6, $7, $8, $9, $10, and I can just sell paper shares. What are you going to do? Right? So here, what I do here is, so they've got 100 million. Let's just say $6 on average. So you take 100 million. Here, let's do the exact number. And you divide that by, let's just say, $6. 16.7 million, right? Now, what if it's $7? You can get a $7 average. Be down to 14. All right. Well, what if you can get an $8 average? Even with an $8 average, you're dumping 12.5 million, right? So that's a lot of shares that they're going to be dumping into this. And when you look at the total outstanding as of today, the beginning of today, it was 22 million, right? So if I'm dumping 12, 14, 15 million, I'm diluting the heck out of this. And so I think, Massimo, you asked, who are they selling to? They're selling to anybody that is buying today. So this is why this is like an A++ short, because you let them, you know that they have to push it up. They have to allow it to go up to sell into. Because if they just start selling, it's just going to go straight down and you're not going to entice the chasers, right? So this is why this is just going down. Any buyers, any pops, they're just selling into. So it would be like you sitting here and just hitting the sell button. Man, here's 30 on PLTR. Sorry, we're playing this 30. I mean, we're playing this PLTR. Man, this has been so fun to play this morning. Um, yeah. So I wish I had an ATM I could use at any time, right? So did I answer all questions about the ATM? Does everybody understand what they're doing? And so if I pull over um, VCNX, the way that you can find these guys is on the tape. You can see distribution happening on the tape. When you've got a float of 20 million and you've already rotated your float 10 times, so outstanding shares, I shouldn't even say the float. I don't know what the float is. I haven't even looked it up. But maximum is 20 million, right? And you're going to do that 10 times today. You've rotated your float 10 times. That means people are selling into it. So this is a perfect example of dilution and what it does. Massimo says, so it is why all the action occur in pre-market and first minutes at open. Is that what you're saying, Massimo? First minutes at open? Yeah. So the way these companies work is what they'll do is they'll say, you know what? Let's put out a PR. Let's run our stock up so that we can sell into it. Well, what was VCNX's PR? 2 deals with leading pharmaceutical companies on leveraging. Did they even mention? I didn't even read this. Did they even mention the leading pharmaceutical companies? That's how you know it's just a BS PR. Leading pharmaceutical companies, and other companies used to be like, we signed a deal with a top Fortune 500 company or whatever, and it's like, okay, well, can you tell us who it was? I don't know if they did or not, but anyway, it's they're saying, hey, here we go. Um, this is our PR. So they pump it up, and then they themselves will actually absorb, meaning buy shares to make sure that they can push, right? An example of this of the absorption was UAVS. So if you watched UAVS yesterday, this is why I was wanting to play this today, and I just played it wrong today. I got shook and poor performance for me on this. But they were absorbing down here, expecting this rebuttal that they put out today on UAVS. So let's see. So Lisa's asking about the 12 million. So again, all you have to do to figure out how many shares they're going to put in, find out the remaining dilution ability, right? So right here it says there's 100 million just on the ATM. This is just the ATM. And so if you look at the chart and you say, what really could they get if they can't just dump 20 million shares, right? So they're going to have to be buying and selling and working this chart on the way down. And so you just take your calculator and you say 100 million 700,000, right? That's the remaining ATM right here on the screen. You just put that into your calculator, and then you're like, all right, what is the average price you think they could get? You know, if you said it was 650, there's 15 million. If you think it's 8, you know, if you think they can get 8, that's 12.5 million shares, right? For an average of 8. That means they've added 12.5 million shares. So 8 would be a very high average for them. Very high. And so what would 12.5 million do to the float? Well, remember when it started the day, it was 22 million. We've literally added about 50% of the float. So we've diluted the shareholder value by 50% today, minimum, right? This is how these companies make money and how they work. The same thing with Watt. Watt's a perfect example of it. Watt, like literally, this was a favorite of I mean, I guess it's okay to say his name. This was a favorite of Bond, but this company is trash, and they dilute their shares like crazy. But to do that, you have to have pops, and that's what they do. And you can see exactly what they did today. Boom, dilute. All right. So please repeat again. How do you select the number 8, 7, and 6? How you did that calculation? So Vanda, did I answer your question by going through it? I'm just looking at the chart and saying, all right, if you're dumping 20 million shares, right? You need to. They probably dumped a few in the pre-market. You know, a few 100,000 shares in pre-market. Let it come back down. They probably allowed this push up. They may have even bought shares. You get chasers like Ross was on this morning, right? From Warrior Trading, he was on this. You get him and all his ilk pushing this thing higher. They don't want to sell into him right at the open. They want to squeeze it as high as possible. The question becomes, nobody knows how high they're going to let it squeeze before they start dumping, right? So we start seeing these high volume dumps. You see them here? Boom, boom, boom. You can see them on the volume. See right here, high volume dumps, right? Boom, 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 boom. These are breaking these levels. Everybody's stopping out, high volume, and they're just going to walk. This is called walking it down, stair stepping it down, and they're going to continue to do this. Now, the question becomes, right? You've got people that try to that get trapped. Like there's a lot of people in the Atlas room, like Zach Morris and all these people. They literally get trapped, and then they'll say, "Hey, let's buy this under $6." And the reason they're doing that is they're trying to get out of their trapped shares, and then they dump into their followers. That's why I'll never alert. I don't ever want to be thought of as somebody that is dumping into you, because I'm telling you what I'm going to do beforehand and let you make your own plan. So this was easy, obvious, short. Nick says, so they had 100 million still available today, or did they already use some last year? Nope, it was available today. And the way that this happens, Nick, is they'll put in their 10 Qs what's available, and you can only take their 10Q, and they may PR, hey, we've used some before the 10Q comes out, but it'll be in their 10Q. And so tomorrow, unless they say anything, unless they say, hey, we use this much, like SNDL today, they PR'd. So Sundial Growers announced that the holders of 98.3 million warrants to purchase common shares will exercise their share price at 80 for 110 for gross proceeds of 89 million. So they're telling us, they're PRing that those warrants were used. So now we know those warrants were used. Unless we get a PR like that, we don't know until the 10Q or 10K comes out. Um, Thanks, Donald. It's more clear, but where do you find the remaining ATM capacity figure? It's going to be, so if you don't use a site like this, here, like if I click Edgar, it takes me to this and it shows what this is. So it's all, see this at the market offering. It's all right here, and they're telling you. So look, you see the shares up to 39 million, up to 40 million shares, while their float is 20 mil, where their outstanding is 20 million. So they could what is that, 300% their float, their outstanding shares. So it's all in the Edgar files. And then to figure out what they've used, you just have to go to their 10K or 10Q. Vena says, so they first pump it and then they dump it. That's exactly right. That's why they're called pump and dumps, right? Exactly. Let's see. Nick D, what form is that? Nick, which one? This one? When you're looking for these, Nick, all you got to do, you see over here on the side, this 424B. So if we go to Edgar, so this is VCNX, right? You know, S3s, S1s, 424s. You can look, you can search for these, and you see how they pull up here, and then you just click on them, and you can see there it is. So he provides the shortcut to it, but to get there without this, you just go to Edgar, and you can find it through the 424s. Donnie, how do we know like when it's going to happen, which company is doing it or not? Venda, the best way I know how to answer that question is it's called we're human. It's human, right? What would you do, Vanda? What would you do? So if you only had 2 months of cash left, what would you do? Well, you're going to use it, right? This is why they PR'd it. This PR didn't come out of left field. They planned this. Okay. So let's just pretend you had zero money, but you came out and you said, hey, guess what? I just signed a deal with these big wigs, and they're going to give us a lot of money because I have this product that they want. And everybody's like, oh, okay, here, let me give you some money. I want to buy into your company. And you're like, great, great. Well, here, I've only got 5 shares, and you sell all 5. And then somebody else comes along, hey, I want to buy in. You're like, oh, well, I did only have 5. Yeah, I can sell you 5 more because it's just paper. It's just thin air, right? You do it too. So the question becomes, well, what if they had 12 months of cash left? Would they do it? Probably not. But they wouldn't have PR'd this morning if they had 12 months of cash left. Does that make sense? There would have been no PR this morning if they had 12 months of cash left. There'd be no reason to do it. Does that make sense? What Zach said is so true. And this is what we do in the short room. We call it let the noob shorts get squeezed, and then we'll short the backside. where was the backside on this, guys? Right? Let it push up. You see the kill candle come in. Boom. You can start shorting right here. You don't have to catch the top. Now, when you get good, you can catch this top. A lot of us in here have 9+ as cost basis for shorts on this, but just especially if you're learning to short, you just get you size in too much and you get squeezed. Lisa says, Donald, how often can they file and tell everyone they're adding ATM? Is there a limit? No, there isn't, Lisa. Uh, you have a board and you have to get things approved by the board and all this other stuff, but this is how they survive. This is how these crappy companies survive. Without it, they can't. That's why you have convertible notes as well. They have to have this money to survive. Is there any subtle activity before they use their dilution aside from the news? Uh, that's a good question. Sometimes there is. A lot of times you'll see a reverse split. That means they're about to do a pump and dump because a reverse split is easier to manipulate and easier to run. So I have what I call a type 1 and a type 2 play in my edges. And we're getting everything uploaded so that I can make sure that he's saying Lazar. Did somebody just this looks like a pump. Did somebody mention this? Did somebody put a buyout on this? That's what this looks like. So this is like very unusual volume, right? So something had to happen. So if you can find out what happened, I don't know if it was news or if it's a chat room pump, but something happened right here. So before I play this, I'd have to figure that out. Because if it's a chat room pump, what does that mean? Well, all these people are going to be long and going to be selling into you, right? If it's news and it's worthy of this, then it's something to play. Oh, it's news. Apple's in talks. Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, that might be nice here. So again, just, you know, if you want to check it out, just go to TweetDeck. Luminar shares gains as Apple talks with lidar suppliers for Apple Car. Oh, interesting. Yeah, yeah. Um, all right, let me make sure let's see. Massimo says the ATM can be used anytime in the year. Yes. And what are the admissibility criteria for doing an ATM? So all you got to do is go to Investopedia and type in ATM at the market offering, and they'll explain what it is and what it takes to do it. But put simply, Massimo, any company can do it, right? If you fall under the baby shelf rule, well, then you have a limit that you can do. Is it rehashed, Lisa? Yeah, that it could be rehashed. Um, Nick, who has Edgar activity on 212 and 216? Were you talking about? Are you talking here that the 13s, the 13 Gs? Yeah, I mean, you can definitely use these to see, right? But it's quote unquote illegal to have insiders, buying pre-news, using insider information to buy. But yeah, I mean, you can use those. Um, Anytime somebody buys into something, they obviously think it's going to go up. The reason they sell, we don't know. Maybe they want to buy a new boat. It's not because they think it's going to go down, or maybe they do. We just don't know. But anytime anybody buys, we think it's going to go up. All right. So, any questions about ATM? That's what I'm going to call this video, the ATM, at the market offerings. And again, if you want to dive deeper into this, just at the market offering Investopedia, and that's wiki, and you can just you can read more on it. And there's actually a website that I use from a, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, these guys. Let's see if they have a at the market here. This is just a good, you can read about, NASDAQ compliance. This tells you a lot of the rules. Anybody see at the market? Market. Nope, I don't see it. ATM. Yeah. All right. If no other questions, I'm going to stop this ATM recording.